Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Universal Peace Federation. My name is Ray LePalkin. And at the Universal Peace Federation, we talk a lot about interdependence, mutual prosperity, and universally shared values. So if those ideals resonate with you, please get in touch with us. First, I'd like to, before we begin, read a little bit about the Universal Peace Federation. UPF, as we call it, is an international and interreligious network of individuals and organizations, including representatives from religion, government, civil society, and the private sector. It's dedicated to achieving world peace, and it's an NGO in general consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. UPF supports the work of the United Nations, particularly in the areas of interfaith peace building, peace education, and the strengthening of marriage and family. There are many critical challenges facing our world at this time, from poverty and climate change to conflict and inequality. At the same time, the rise of civil society initiatives and the expansions of Track 2 diplomatic efforts involving people-to-people relations provides new dynamics that can complement and support the work of governments in the search for solutions to our world's most pressing problems. UPF has developed a strong track record of accomplishment. Our commitment to serve, partnership, and cooperation are hallmarks of our work. Through forums, seminars, conferences, service programs, and interfaith peace initiatives, UPF is building a global network of peace builders to contribute to a world of sustainable peace, in which everyone can live in freedom, harmony, cooperation, and prosperity. We invite you to join our effort, share your ideas, and contribute to this global effort to build a world of sustainable and lasting peace. So recently we've been focusing a lot on religious freedom, and we could see a lot of areas in the world, I'm sure on each continent, where these freedoms or liberties are being limited or being persecuted or being taken away. And if we look in general, societies and nations that permit religious freedom and liberties really prosper much, much more than those who don't. And we can see this, an example actually is communist nations. If we look at Russia, China, North Korea, Venezuela, perhaps Cuba, and of course there's a number of others that are really persecuting religious freedom, and then we can really see the lack of development in these nations. So there's really a correlation between that. So we're trying to bring this to highlight these principles and these ideas. And our first show that we're going to be doing today it's called, we're going to be watching a video, and it was a conference that we had recently. It's called the Conference of Hope for Universal Human Rights and Religious Freedom. So please enjoy this video.
At a time when our world faces the threat of war, extremism, climate change, and increasingly a disregard for human rights, an international group of distinguished leaders gathered for the Conference of Hope to discuss the theme Universal Human Rights and Religious Freedom. The conference was held in Seoul, South Korea on November 12th.
기본권인 인권 가운데 가장 기본적이며 가장 기초적인 종교의 인권을 중심으로 보편적 인권에 기반한 종교의 자유라는 주제로 본 컨퍼런스를 개최하게 되었습니다.
Several speakers delivered messages during the conference, streamed live globally and sponsored by the Washington Times Foundation and Think Tank 2022.
Religious liberty long has been called the first freedom. This essential liberty is under attack around the world. Religious liberty is like the famed canary in the mine, the violation of which warns us of impending danger elsewhere. Governments which refuse to protect us as we seek God or otherwise address the transcendent are unlikely to protect us as we exercise our conscience in other ways.
Conference speakers explained that a basic difference between open societies and closed or authoritarian societies is respect for human rights, and especially religious freedom. Unfortunately, religions around the world are reporting persecution, intolerance, discrimination, and violence. People of faith and their allies must speak up.
We want to promote peace and security globally, especially in Korea and the Pacific Rim. The highlight of the conference today will be the introduction and adoption of the Declaration on the universal value of religious freedom.
The conference declaration on human rights and religious freedom is a global call to action, a call for all people to stand firmly against all forms of intolerance, prejudice, harassment, and hate toward believers of the world's religions, reads the statement.
Religious freedom is a hallmark of an open society and a democracy. The United States, Japan, South Korea, key democracies that must stand for religious freedom for everybody, everywhere, all the time.
Keynote speakers pointed to the ongoing persecution of religious groups including Muslim Uyghurs, Tibetan Buddhists, Christians, Jewish, Muslims, Baha'is, Jehovah's Witnesses, Yazidis, Falun Gong, and more recently, members of the Family Federation for World Peace and Unification, formerly the Unification Church in Japan.
The future of religion will now largely be decided by what will happen in Japan. Will it be a future of persecution or a future of liberty? Will it be a future of glory or a future of shame?
It is my heartfelt and deep conviction that every human should have the most basic right of religious liberty. One fundamental principle and truth is that our rights do not come from government. They come from God.
The current persecution of the Family Federation in Japan was addressed by several of the speakers, noting that attacks on the religion had intensified since the tragic assassination of the former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in July. As a result, members of the Family Federation have reported death threats, harassment, false accusations, and verbal abuse.
最も悪質な人権侵害は、拉致監禁を手段とする脱会強要でした。1966年に始まり、2015年にほぼ収束するまでに4300名以上が犠牲になりました。
Through our research, we are seeing that many in the media are trying to dissolve the movement in Japan without any legal due process. We've also found that many are politically sympathetic to the communist or socialist, anti-religious, anti-America, and anti-Abe view.
As a journalist, I have an eye for following the trajectory of a story, and this one is very strange. A charismatic former prime minister charting a future course for Japan is murdered by a disgruntled man with a homemade gun. The debate, though, does not focus on, say, mental health challenges in Japanese society, as it does on gun control in America after a mass shooting there. The story is now firmly embedded on the Unification Church.
After World War II, the Soviet Union was aggressively working to bring Japan into the communist sphere of influence. The erosion of religious freedom inevitably leads to the suppression of freedom of speech, open debate, and free elections, thus breeding fear and distrust. Persecution of minority religions often gives rise to violence and even genocide. A group called Open Doors lists 50 of the top persecutors of Christians and other faiths, starting with Afghanistan's Taliban and North Korea's totalitarian regime. The Center for Study on Global Christianity reports 100,000 Christians are killed annually for their faith, averaging one death every 6 minutes.
Freedom of religion or belief is a litmus test of all other human rights, because when the religious freedom is missing, then other civil freedoms are missing as well. Why is evil so influential in today's world? Because it has many allies. It's indifference, ignorance, and fear. When we don't care, when we don't know, and when we are scared to say or to do something. In order to overcome these siblings, we must invest more into active engagement, lifelong education, and civil courage. Then, century of hope may come and culture of human dignity may prevail over extreme violence, aggressive wars, and century of genocides.
Conference of Hope speakers said people of faith, democratic governments, political leaders, and civil society organizations must cooperate to combat the global attacks on religion.
People and societies which dismiss the importance of spiritual values and moral guidelines, are susceptible to lose their humanity.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is an example of how a religion can overcome heavy persecution. Despite severe attacks on its people, the Mormon Church now thrives as a major Christian denomination with members widely accepted around the world.
The lesson drawn from persecution is not the need for revenge, but an intensified appreciation of the practical importance and freedom of religion. Part of what one learns from awareness of persecution in one's own tradition is empathy for the suffering of others.
A forthcoming campaign will appeal to the global public to stand in solidarity with believers around the world in support of basic human rights and especially religious liberty. The Washington Times Foundation hosts numerous programs that address the issues of peace and security in the world. Think Tank 2022 regularly engages its worldwide network to promote dialogue, reconciliation, and peace on the Korean Peninsula. To learn more about the Conference of Hope and stand with its declaration on the universal value of religious freedom, please go to this website.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that video. And it kind of gives you an idea that what we're doing at a lot of these conferences. And you can actually watch them on our website, us.upf.org. If you go to events and look at all the past webinars that we've had, they're all there. The videos are all listed there as well. One conference that we participated in, both the Washington Times Foundation and Universal Peace Federation, that was just held recently in Washington, D.C., was the International Religious Freedom Conference. And we were one of the co-sponsors, partners of this conference, and it addressed this issue of religious freedom in the world. And I'd like to read from the conference. This is kind of the charter that was developed on religious freedom from this interreligious conference. The right of freedom of religion and conscience belongs to every person by virtue of his or her humanity, and reflects the core of his or her dignity and personhood. Men and women are endowed with reason and free will, and by their nature desire the truth which religion seeks to provide. The right to religious freedom is enshrined in Article 18 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which declares, "Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom, either alone or in community with others and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. The denial of religious freedom to any person is to deny his or her right to live a fully human life and to flourish as a human being. Religious freedom is important to human beings because religion is important to human beings. The vast majority of the world's people belong to a religious community or are religious in some form. Protecting religious freedom equally for all persons and for all their respective religious communities is critical to individual human flourishing, the flourishing of religion, and the flourishing of nations. The striving of nations toward full equality of religious freedom for all their citizens and all the religious and non-religious communities can contribute to social harmony, economic prosperity, political stability, and the lowering of related violence. Whereas the achievement by nations of religious freedom for all their citizens and religious communities, protected in law and valued by culture, world would dramatically increase international justice, stability, and peace. The defense of religious freedom transcends partisanship and politics, and the protection of conscience serves as a fundamental cornerstone for the flourishing of just, free nations. Tragically, religious freedom for all persons and all religious communities does not yet exist in any nation, and the denial of religious freedom in its various components is widespread and increasing. Tragically, the ultimate form of religious freedom deprivation, violent religious persecution, is also widespread and increasing. and is causing enormous human suffering, the destruction of families and communities, and the destabilization of entire societies. So this is a declaration that the summit came up with, that every government, every religious community, and every political and civil society organization in the world should strive toward the goal of achieving freedom of religion and conscience for everyone, everywhere, protected in law and valued by culture. That religious freedom should be understood as three interconnected levels of rights. Number one, the right of every human being freely to believe in religious truths or not to believe, uncoerced by any human authority, especially the state with its extraordinary powers. Number two, the right to join with others in religious community, which also possesses religious freedom. The freedom includes the right to pursue the goods natural to religious communities, such as building houses of worship, training clergy, establishing religious schools, developing and upholding religious doctrines. It includes the rights of parents to raise their children within their chosen faith community. It includes the right of individuals and communities to share their beliefs with others and to invite others to join their religious communities. It includes rights of adherents to leave any religious community and join another. Number three, the rights of believers and of religious communities to live and act peacefully within civil and political society in accord with their religious beliefs. It includes the right of believers and their communities to draw on those beliefs as they participate in civic life. It includes the right to convey their views to the public on issues of common good, such as justice, peace, equality, and freedom. That all people of good will, including leaders of international organizations, nations, religions, civil society institutions, media, policy, and political entities, should begin now to adopt practical steps toward the goal of achieving religious freedom for everyone, everywhere. So that gives you an idea of kind of the ideals of religious freedom that would be nice if every country could apply these to their laws. And one thing I'd like to do too is to read from this is our co-founder, Reverend Dr. Sun Myung Moon. He is the co-founder along with his wife, Hak Jahan Moon, of the Universal Peace Federation. And I'd like to read on one of his talks. And the topic is, "The river does not reject the waters that flow into it." Selfishness is rampant in the world. Ironically, however, the individual is destroyed by this, and not just the individual, but those around him, and the nation as a whole. The greatest obstacle to the world of peace is greed in people's hearts. It starts in individuals and expands to the nation, and hearts strained with avarice cause division and conflict at every level. Countless people throughout history have shed their blood and died in conflicts caused by greed. To eliminate such conflicts, we need a great revolution to change the erroneous values and thinking that are widespread in the world today. The complex problems our societies face today can be resolved quickly if there is a revolution in people's thinking. If each individual and nation begins to look out for the others first, working together with the other, the problems of modern society will be resolved. Throughout my life, I have dedicated myself to efforts for peace. Whenever peace is discussed, I become emotional. Tears begin to well up in my eyes, my voice chokes, and I can hardly swallow. It moves me deeply just to imagine the day when the world becomes one and begins to enjoy peace. That is the nature of peace. It links people who think differently, are of different races, and speak different languages. Our hearts yearn for this world and harbor a hope that it will be realized. However, peace comes through concrete action, not just having a vague dream. But building a movement for peace has not always been easy. There have been many difficulties, and it's required large sums of money. For as long as I've been doing this work, I have been lonely. This is because ultimately, peace is the desire of every person in the world. It is strange, though. Everyone wants peace, but still it has not come. It is easy to talk about peace, but to bring peace is not easy. This is because people push aside the most elemental truth needed to bring about a world of peace. They pretend not to know this truth is there. Before we talk about peace among individuals or nations, we must talk about peace between ourselves and God. Each religion today thinks of itself as the highest, rejecting and looking down on other religions. It is not right to build fences against each other and other religions and denominations. Religion is like a wide river flowing toward an ideal, peaceful world. The river flows for a long distance before it comes to the wide expanse of peace. On its way, many streams flow into it. The streams cease to be streams from the point that they meet the river. From that point, they too become part of the river. In this way, they become one. The river does not reject any of the streams that flow into it. It accepts them all. It embraces all the streams and forms a single flow as it continues toward the ocean. People in the world today do not understand this simple truth. The stream that seeks out the river and flow into it are the numerous religions and denominations of today. Each stream traces its origin to a different spring, but they are all going in the same destination. They are seeking the ideal world overflowing with peace. Peace will never come to this earth unless we first tear down the walls between religions. For thousands of years, religions have grown in alliance with particular ethnic groups, and so they are surrounded by high cultural walls. Tearing these down is an extremely difficult task. For thousands of years, each religion has surrounded itself with high walls, insisting that it's the only correct religion. In some cases, religions have expanded their influence and entered into conflicts and fights with other religions, using God's name and activities that has nothing to do with his will. The will of God lies in peace. A world fragmented by differences in nationality, race, and religion, where people attack and fight one another and shed one another's blood, is not what God wants. When we shed blood and fight each other in his name, we only cause him pain. A world torn to shreds has been created out of the desires of people to promote their own wealth and glory. It does not represent the will of God. God clearly told me so. I am only his errand boy, receiving his words and carrying them out on earth. The path to bring about a world of peace in which religions and races become united has been exhausting. Many times I was rejected by people, or my own abilities fell short, but I could not put aside this mission. When members and colleagues who worked with me would cry out in anguish because of the difficulty of the task, I would even feel envious of them. If you decide this path isn't for you, you have the option to stop, turn back, I told them. Or if you try and still can't accomplish it, you may have the option to die trying. But you should pity me, I said. I am a person with no options. There are those that are close to 200 countries in the world. For all these countries to enjoy peace, the power of religion is absolutely necessary. The power of religion is in the love that overflows from it. I'm a religious person whose role is to convey love, so it's natural I would work for world peace. There's no difference between Islam and Christianity and their commitment to bring about a world of peace. In America, I lead a movement for peace, bringing together thousands of clergy who transcend denominations. Through this movement, we discuss ways that people of all faiths, Christian, Muslim, Jew, Buddhist, etc., can come together. We devote our full efforts to change the hardened hearts of people. My purpose is the same today as it was yesterday, is to create one world with God at the center, a world brought together with a single nation without borders. All humanity will be citizens of this world, sharing a culture of love. In such a world, there will be no possibility for division and conflict. This will mark the beginning of a truly peaceful world. So again, he touches on religious freedom and the necessary for all of us to come together regardless of how we worship God. Again, there is one God, and if we can give these religious freedoms to people of all nations, then that will definitely help to realize a world of peace. So again, thank you for watching today. And again, if this resonates with you, please get in touch with us. Our contact information is up on the screen. And as always, I always like to offer complimentary copies of our co-founder's autobiography, Dr. Reverend Sanyamang Moon and his wife, Dr. Hak Jahan Moon. So please get in touch with us, and thank you for joining us today.